The house was quiet, too quiet, echoing with the absence of my husband, Daniel. He traveled for work, always had. A rising star in his company, he said it was the price of success. I wasn't so sure. The price felt awfully high some nights, curled up alone in our king-size bed. Daniel had insisted on hiring a driver for me. For safety, he said. I suspected it was to soothe his own anxieties, a way to keep tabs on me from afar. Not that I had anywhere to go or anyone to see. My days were long, filled with the hollow echo of loneliness. David was a whirlwind of efficiency. He navigated the city traffic with ease, always arrived early, never complained. He was a good listener too. He would patiently wait while I ran errands, engaging in polite conversation about my day. I found myself looking forward to our drives, a brief respite from the silence of my own company. He reminded me of Daniel in the early days, the way he threw his head back when he laughed, the easy charm that drew people in. But David was different. He had a sincerity that Daniel seemed to have lost somewhere along the way, replaced with ambition and the tired eyes of a man who was always working. The rain continued for days. Daniel called, his voice distant, crackling through the phone line. He wouldn't be back for another week, maybe two. He promised to make it up to me, a weekend getaway perhaps. Empty promises. That evening, David brought me my usual takeout dinner. He lingered at the doorway, hesitant. "Everything all right, ma'am?" he asked, his brow furrowed. I could tell he wanted to say more, but something held him back. "Come in, David," I heard myself say. "Have dinner with me." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken implications. He hesitated for a beat, then stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The rain hammered against the windows, creating a cozy intimacy within the house. It was one of those nights where the world outside seemed to disappear, leaving just the two of us in our little bubble. The rhythmic patter of the rain was almost hypnotic, a soothing backdrop to the evening that lay ahead. We ate in silence at first, the only sound the clinking of forks against plates. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but rather a shared moment of reflection. Each bite was a pause, a moment to gather thoughts and feelings that had been building up over time. The food was delicious, but it was clear that both of us had something more substantial on our minds. David told me about his family, his aspirations to open his own business one day. His eyes lit up as he spoke, a spark of passion that was impossible to ignore. He talked about his childhood, the struggles and triumphs that had shaped him into the man he was today. It was clear that he had a vision, a dream that he was determined to make a reality. He had this boyish enthusiasm that was contagious. Every word he spoke was filled with hope and excitement, and I found myself getting drawn into his world. His laughter was infectious, a sound that seemed to chase away the shadows that had been lingering in my mind. For a moment I forgot about my own worries and just enjoyed the present. Then, he said it. "You're too beautiful to be locked away in this house, ma'am." His words were simple, but they carried a weight that was hard to ignore. It was as if he could see right through me, past the facade I had built to protect myself. His compliment was more than just flattery, it was a reminder of the person I used to be, the person I had almost forgotten. "You deserve to be happy," he continued, his voice filled with genuine concern. It was a statement, not a question, and it left me feeling exposed. Happiness had become a distant memory, something I had resigned myself to living without. But hearing those words from David made me realize that maybe, just maybe, I still had a chance at finding it again. His words hung in the air, charged with something more than just concern. There was an intensity in his gaze, a silent plea for me to see the truth in his words. The atmosphere around us shifted, becoming almost electric. It was as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. The warmth of his touch was a stark contrast to the cold, rainy night outside. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. In that moment, I felt a connection that went beyond words, a silent understanding that we were both searching for something more. His touch sent a jolt through me. It was as if a current of electricity had passed between us, awakening feelings I had long buried. Surprise, confusion, and a flicker of hope all mingled together, creating a whirlwind of emotions that left me breathless. It was a reminder that I was still alive, still capable of feeling. It had been so long since I had felt the warmth of another person. The touch of his hand was a stark reminder of the loneliness that had become my constant companion. It was a warmth that I had almost forgotten, a comfort that I had convinced myself I no longer needed. But in that moment, I realized how much I had missed it. I wanted to lean in, to lose myself in that moment of connection. The longing in my heart was almost unbearable, a yearning for something I had been denying myself for far too long. It was a moment of vulnerability, a chance to let down my guard and embrace the possibility of happiness. But as much as I wanted to, something held me back. A nagging voice in the back of my mind, a reminder of the promises I had made. It was a hesitation born out of fear, a reluctance to let go of the past and embrace the unknown. The weight of my past decisions loomed over me, casting a shadow on the present moment. A flicker of Daniel's face, the memory of our vows, a whisper of the life we had built together. It was a life that had been filled with love and laughter, but also with pain and loss. The memories came flooding back, a bittersweet reminder of what once was. It was a past that I couldn't simply erase, a part of me that would always be there. And in that moment, I realized that moving forward would mean finding a way to honor that past while still embracing the future. The room seemed to spin. I gently pulled my hand away, my heart pounding in my chest. Shame washed over me, hot and suffocating. What was I doing? This was wrong. David was young, kind, and completely off limits. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and understanding. He knew he had crossed a line, and yet, there was a part of him, I realized, that had hoped I wouldn't push him away. "David," I began, my voice trembling. "I appreciate your concern, but this is inappropriate. You're my driver. I am a married woman." The words felt cold, clinical, a stark contrast to the intimacy we had shared only moments before. The air thickened with unspoken words, regret hanging heavy between us. David stood, his shoulders slumped, the earlier vibrancy replaced with a quiet shame. He mumbled an apology, his eyes avoiding mine. He moved towards the door, his footsteps slow and heavy. I watched him go, a part of me wanting to call him back, to erase the last hour, to pretend it never happened. But I knew deep down that some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed. The weight of my choice settled over me. I had come perilously close to betraying my husband, to throwing away years of marriage for a fleeting moment of connection. The realization was both terrifying and liberating. The days that followed were filled with a strange mix of relief and longing. I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, each one pulling me in a different direction. Relief because the secret was out, and longing because the connection I had felt was now a distant memory. I avoided David's eyes, the memory of that night a constant shadow between us. Every time I saw him, I was reminded of the choices I had made, and the consequences that followed. The tension was palpable, a silent reminder of the boundaries we had crossed. He remained professional, his demeanor respectful, but the easy banter was gone, replaced by a strained silence. Our interactions became mechanical, devoid of the warmth and camaraderie that once defined our relationship. It was as if we were both walking on eggshells, careful not to break the fragile peace. I threw myself into my neglected hobbies, filling the empty hours with painting and gardening, hoping to find solace in the familiar. The vibrant colors of my canvas and the earthy scent of the garden became my refuge, a place where I could lose myself and forget the turmoil within me. Anything to quiet the turmoil within me. I meditated, seeking inner peace, but my mind was a storm of thoughts and emotions. I questioned my decisions, my desires, and my commitment to the life I had chosen. I thought about Daniel, about the life we had built together, the memories we had created and the dreams we had shared. Our journey had been filled with ups and downs, but it was our journey, one that we had embarked on together. The vows we had made were not just words, they were promises, commitments to stand by each other through thick and thin. I remembered the look in his eyes as we exchanged our vows, the love and trust that had bound us together. Our marriage may have lost its spark, but it was still ours. It was a testament to the years we had spent together, the challenges we had overcome, and the love that had endured despite the odds. I realized then that my loneliness was not a void for another person to fill, but a space for me to rediscover myself. It was an opportunity to reconnect with my own passions, my own dreams, and my own sense of self. I needed to find happiness within myself, within the context of my marriage, not seek it in the arms of another. I began to see my marriage not as a constraint, but as a foundation upon which I could build a more fulfilling life. I needed to find happiness within myself, within the context of my marriage, not seek it in the arms of another. I began to see my marriage not as a constraint, but as a foundation upon which I could build a more fulfilling life. I started to appreciate the small moments of joy, the quiet contentment that came from being with someone who knew me so well. I realized that fidelity was not just about staying true to my partner, but also about staying true to myself. It was about honoring the commitments I had made, not just to Daniel, but to myself. I turned away from the temptation, resolute in my decision to rebuild my life and my marriage on a foundation of trust and self-discovery. When Daniel finally returned, I saw him with new eyes. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing the man I had once known but had somehow forgotten. The lines on his face told stories of sleepless nights and endless meetings, but his eyes still held that familiar spark. He was tired, yes, and preoccupied with work, but there was more to it. The weight of his responsibilities had taken a toll on him, and I could see the strain in his every movement. Yet beneath the exhaustion there was still the man who had once made me laugh until I cried. But he was still the man I'd fallen in love with. The man who had held my hand through the toughest times and celebrated the happiest moments with me. We had shared dreams, hopes, and countless memories. It was all still there, just buried under the layers of our busy lives. We had simply drifted apart, lost in the busyness of our lives. The daily grind had created a chasm between us, one that we hadn't even noticed growing. We were like two ships passing in the night, sharing the same space but not truly connecting. I told him about David, not in detail, but enough to convey the danger I had found myself in. It was a difficult conversation, one that I had dreaded, but it was necessary. I needed him to understand the gravity of the situation and the impact it had on me. To my surprise, he wasn't angry. Instead, he listened with a calm and composed demeanor, absorbing every word I said. His reaction was not what I had expected, and it left me feeling both relieved and confused. He was worried, not about my fidelity, but about my happiness. His concern was genuine, and it made me realize how much he still cared. He wanted to know what had led me to that point and how we could fix it together. He vowed to be more present, to make more of an effort. It was a promise that came from the heart, and I could see the sincerity in his eyes. He wanted to rebuild what we had lost, to find our way back to each other. We started having date nights, something we hadn't done in years. Those evenings became a sanctuary for us, a time to reconnect and remember why we had fallen in love in the first place. Planned a weekend getaway, just the two of us. It was a chance to escape the chaos of our daily lives and focus on each other. We explored new places, shared new experiences, and rediscovered the joy of being together. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. We had our ups and downs, moments of doubt and moments of clarity, but through it all, we were committed to making it work. We were rebuilding brick by brick the foundation of our marriage. It was a slow and deliberate process, but each step brought us closer to the relationship we both wanted. We were learning to set boundaries, to prioritize each other, and to cherish the love that had brought us together in the first place. Looking back, I'm grateful for that night, as unsettling as it was. It forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, to acknowledge the loneliness I had been carrying for far too long. It taught me the importance of setting boundaries, of protecting my heart and my marriage. It also taught me the transformative power of self-respect. By choosing fidelity, by choosing myself and my marriage, I rediscovered a strength I didn't know I possessed. And in doing so, I found a path back to myself and to a love that was worth fighting for.